Hey everyone, this next interview is pretty cool. A little while back, I had the pleasure of speaking to Dr. Keith Villa, the founder and creator of Blue Moon Brewing, a company I'm sure many of you are familiar with. Since its creation in the 90s, Blue Moon has gone on to become the most successful craft brewery in the United States while also expanding to countries around the world. Now, Dr. Villa is on to his next project, Cannabis infused beer. A few years back, he and his wife Jody co founded CERIA Brewing Company, a non alcoholic beer company specializing in 420 friendly products. Currently, he has a book out titled Brewing with Cannabis, in which he shares the skills it takes to become a masterful cannabis infusing home brewer. Dr. Villa, as well as the CERIA team as a whole, were so gracious in giving me the chance to speak to him, and I want to give them the sincerest of thank yous. They are truly an incredible company pushing the boundaries in both the beer and cannabis industry. With that, here's my interview with Dr. Villa.
Well, thanks for finding us and looking into us, and yeah, glad to answer some questions.
Definitely. So to start off, I wanted to know just a little bit more about kind of your experience. I know you founded Blue Moon, and you're now onto this project, and I just kind of wanted to know, as someone who clearly has a knack for creativity in this business, what makes you choose a project to really sink your teeth into and be passionate about and try to grow into reality? Why did you choose Blue Moon and now Saria?
Well, with Blue Moon, I had lived in Belgium for 4 years to get my PhD in brewing
Uh-huh.
back before the craft revolution, and my wife and I lived there, and we actually experienced the culture, and we were thinking this type of beer culture has got to come to the States. It's like a tidal wave that's coming, and so I created Blue Moon, and at that time, 1995, when I launched, a lot of people don't realize that back then Belgian beers were almost unheard of in this country, and but I launched Blue Moon with our flagship beer
Yeah.
being a Belgian style white ale, which people thought there was something wrong with it. It was cloudy. I mean, it was hard to sell,
Yeah.
but after about I would say 6 to 7 years of hard work, and the fact that the whole market was changing, Blue Moon took off, and it was on a rocket ship and became the largest selling single craft beer brand in the United States, which it still is to this day.
That's
Um,
amazing.
and it really influenced a lot of people. It was their over the years it became what they called their gateway into craft,
Uh-huh.
because certainly after Blue Moon there were a lot of beers that evolved to become even heavier, more fuller bodied styles, such as the Imperials, IPAs, you name it, and so many new categories popped up along the way because of craft brewers' innovation. But Blue Moon was the beer that kick-started the revolution and really helped a lot of craft brewers get their first taste of craft beer. And to this day, I still get emails from folks thanking me for creating Blue Moon, because they tell me it was their first step into craft beer, and it helped them to become either a craft beer fan or a craft brewer.
Wow.
So it was fun. And then when I retired, after that, my wife and I took a look at the landscape, and we saw cannabis coming online,
Uh-huh.
and we thought that could be the next, the next new frontier. And the first thing we saw was that cannabis, in its form, at least in Colorado when it first appeared, it was flower, and flower was smokable. And we thought, that's not a very social way to enjoy cannabis. So we put our heads together and said, you know what? Let's figure out a way to offer cannabis to the masses in a socially acceptable form and in a real responsible way. And so we thought the best way to do it is through beer, because beer is one of those types of things that is very sociable. It brings people together,
Mm-hmm.
and it's very responsible because it's low alcohol compared to like spirits.
Right.
If you sat there doing
Yeah.
tequila shots, that's not too responsible after
Yeah.
about 4 or 5 shots.
Definitely.
So we thought beer is the best way to do it, and so once we figured that out, we said, okay, we've got 3 really big hurdles to cross to make this thing work. The first one was to make a non-alcoholic beer that tasted good, because we found out right away that it's illegal to mix alcohol with cannabis. And so I got to work trying to create a really good tasting non-alcoholic beer. And since I have a PhD in brewing from Brussels, it didn't take me too long, and I figured out how to make a really great tasting line of beers. So we got that hurdle crossed. Then the next big hurdle was trying to figure out how to get cannabis out, that is THC, and turn it into a water-soluble format in order to put into the beer. And so we looked and looked, and we finally found a couple of colleagues who had the technology, and so we worked with them, and we figured out quickly how to put it into water-soluble format and how to get it to stay in the beer. So that was our second big hurdle. Then the last hurdle was to create the brand architecture, because in the consumer packaged goods area, whether you're talking jeans or motorcycles or food or beer, the branding really, really helps.
Absolutely.
And so we hired a company out of California to help us with the brand architecture and really create a brand that had appeal to both beer drinkers and cannabis users.
Yeah.
And the company that we hired is called Trinity out of Berkeley, California, and they are the agency of record for Constellation, which is the big company that sells Corona and Modelo beers, and they also invested $4 billion into Canopy Growth up in Canada.
Okay.
And but anyway, their agency of record, their ad agency of record was Trinity, and is Trinity. So I had to get permission from them to use Trinity for CERIA, and luckily they gave us permission, so we signed up Trinity and worked with them to create the brand architecture. And once we settled on the look and feel of the brand, that's when we had all 3 hurdles crossed successfully. And in fact, the architecture of the brand led us to receive the North American Packaging Award about a year ago for 2019.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah, thank you. And so we know that the look and feel of the brand is solid. It appeals to consumers, and it's award winning. We know that the liquid, the beer itself, is highly respected among consumers. And then the fact that we can put cannabis in it without any smell or taste, again, is a huge win. So we went to market in December of 2018, and we spent all of last year getting the brand into all the, at least most of the dispensaries in Colorado, and had just a great year last year. We're having a lot of fun, and then this year we're just a couple weeks out from launching in the state of California.
Oh, nice.
So that's the cannabis side, and then last year we had such a lot of just lots of people who requested our non-alcoholic beer without infusion, because we had people like truck drivers, military, public service people like firefighters and police officers who said that they get tested all the time for THC, or for drugs actually, and they said there's no way they can drink our cannabis beer, but they love the flavor of our beer. So they asked if we could offer it as just a standalone, non-infused, non-alcoholic beer, and since we make it anyway, we said, well, sure. So we spent a lot of time last year, 2019, developing the brand and the packaging for the non-alcoholic beer, and we launched it in January of this year, and really we launched to rave reviews where people love the taste of our beers. And I should mention we have 2 beers. One is a Belgian style white ale, and we did that because of the fame of Blue Moon,
right?
Belgian wine.
I was curious. Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah. And then the second flavor we have, or the second style, is an IPA. It's a West Coast IPA, and we did that because IPAs are the largest selling style of craft beer in the United States, and so we thought might as well appeal to craft beer drinkers. So those are the two we have, and we will launch a third style probably later this year, and it most likely will be a lighter style to appeal to those people just getting into the world of cannabis. And it'll probably be a light lager, or just something like a Corona style or something like that.
Definitely, very, very cool. Well,
so that's where we are. I guess so far. Any questions?
Yeah, that a lot of information. That's great. I'm happy to hear you guys are going through so many successes right now. I just kind of wanted to get your take on breaking down kind of how the THC works in the beer specifically. I read somewhere you say it takes like around 15 or 20 minutes to kick in. Was that intentional, or is that just how the water-soluble cannabis happens to work on the body, or did you guys have to work on that timing to make it like alcohol?
No, that's with water-soluble in liquids. In general, that's about how much time it takes to get into the system, is about, I'd say 15 to about 30 minutes, depending on the individual.
Definitely.
And so, of course, if you put it in an edible, it takes quite a bit longer because it has to go through the digestive system.
Right.
So with the drinkable, it starts going into the system the minute it goes into the soft palate of the mouth, and then continues through. It's fairly quick compared to edibles. It's not as fast as smoking, of course, because smoking gets it into the system within seconds. I mean, if not seconds, within minutes.
Right.
Just a couple minutes, and you feel the effect. But of course, smoking for us is really losing its social appeal because so many people just don't want to be around smoke, or they're allergic, or some people with asthma literally cannot be around smoke. And so that's why for us it's really important to simulate the effects of beer and get that experience similar to the way people experience great craft beers, because when they see our IPA with 10 milligrams of THC plus 10 milligrams of CBD, and they feel the effects, it's similar to having I would say a large pint of IPA. You
Definitely.
Feel the buzz,
yeah.
And it feels good, but you're not stoned.
Totally.
And then with the Belgian White, again, it has 5 milligrams, so you don't feel a huge buzz, but you feel a nice relaxed sensation. And for us, it's critical to, again, simulate the effects that you would feel as if the beer was an alcoholic beer. But again, there's no alcohol in our beers. It's all cannabis.
Right. Really cool. Right on. And regarding the actual beer, like before it has any THC in it, like you said it was fairly easy for you as someone who has a PhD and plenty of experience. What sort of process is that like, and was there a lot of trial and error, or was it pretty easy since you clearly know the ropes very well?
There still was trial and error. And I would say relatively easy.
Yeah.
It was a little tough, because if you compare the taste of our beer against a lot of the craft beer NAs that are on the market right now, and there are not a lot. I should tell you, I would say probably around 20 nationwide. So certainly
not many.
The alcoholic world of craft beer, you're talking 8,000 craft brewers.
Jeez.
And each one has, I'd say on average, probably 3 to 4 styles. So, you're talking somewhere around, 20,000 and up alcoholic beers out there.
Right.
So with non-alcoholic, it is very difficult for craft brewers to make. That's why you only see about 20 of them out there, and most of them really do not taste very good. I would say that from a consumer's perspective, because we've read that time and again, that people just don't like the taste of non-alcoholic beer. But also, I'm a certified beer judge, and I've been judging at Great American Beer Festival and the World Beer Cup. GABF since 1993 and World Beer Cup since the very first one in, when was it? 1996, I believe. So yeah, I've been judging a long time, and I've judged the non-alcoholic categories as well as the standard alcoholic categories, and so I know what a decent non-alcoholic beer should taste like. And so ours is, I think it does taste really good. It tastes like beer, and so it is kind of tough to make a good tasting non-alcoholic beer that tastes like beer.
Definitely. Well, that's awesome that you guys have made that happen. It sounds pretty difficult. I've read about it on other websites too, saying it really, the flavor is super hard to get to. So that's great.
Yeah, it is. It's for brewers who don't quite understand the science of brewing. And there are quite a few, not to denigrate anybody, but a lot of craft brewers were basically home brewers who came up with great recipes, and almost all of them through trial and error, rather than going to brewing school and learning how to brew and then starting to brew. The vast majority are home brewers who came up with some great recipes because they either read Charlie Papazian's Joy of Home Brewing, which had some fantastic recipes in it, and they copied those, then tweaked them and made some changes here and there, and then turned it into something better. Or they belonged to homebrew clubs that were really innovative and great at coming up with new recipes. And yeah, so a lot of the homebrewers opened their own pubs, and it led to a lot of success. But when it comes to making specialty types of beers where you have to not have alcohol, that's where you draw a line, because it's very difficult to come up with those type of beers.
Mm-hmm. You gotta have a little more experience to do that stuff.
Yes, yeah, because it's there's so much more involved than just putting the ingredients together, boiling, throwing in the yeast, and hopping or dry hopping, whatever you do, whatever you want to do. Yeah, it's much more complicated, and then to come up with the final product that tastes good, that's very difficult. And so, and again, that's why you don't see very many non-alcoholic brews being offered by craft brewers.
Definitely. Makes sense. How are you on time real quick? I just want to make sure I'm not keeping you too long.
I think I'm doing fine, yeah.
Oh.
But till here it's about 12 minutes until, it looks like 15 minutes till 9. Over where you are, it must be 15 till 8.
Yeah, about.
Yeah, okay.
Perfect.
So I can go till about 8 o'clock your time.
Okay, yeah, that sounds great. I just wanted to see, kind of from your perspective as someone who's dedicated their lives to beer making. Now you're in this process where you're not making beer with alcohol. Was that a hard mental switch for you? And is that something that really matters to you at all? Or do you just kind of want to see beer continue in any form, with or without the alcohol?
Oh, I think beer in any form should continue. And I should point out that my wife and I, we also have a small brewery in our hometown. Our hometown is called Arvada, Colorado.
Oh,
it's
right.
It's a suburb outside of Denver, so we've got a little brewery. It's not open to the public, but we supply beers to local retailers, and it's alcoholic beer.
Okay,
so,
gotcha.
So we still keep our foot into the alcoholic world, but CERIA, which rhymes with area, is dedicated to 100% non-alcoholic beers, and we feel it's a lifestyle, because we see so many people looking for a great tasting beer that doesn't have alcohol for a number of reasons. We see the health and wellness sector really becoming popular, where people either don't want the calories, or they don't want to wake up in the morning with a hangover, or we even see people who just want to pace themselves on a Friday night. If they're out drinking with their friends, they may have one IPA and then two, and rather than continue and get really buzzed, we see a lot that search out either light beers or else non-alcoholic, so that they can pace themselves during the night. And but then, of course, we see other people who don't want alcohol for religious reasons, and then we even see people who don't want alcohol because they might be on medications that prohibit alcohol. So yes, we just see a whole bunch of upside for the non-alcoholic market, and the numbers back us up because no matter which data set you look at, you see sales of non-alcoholic beer climbing at a rate of anywhere from 7 or 8% per year, and higher. So it's a market that's growing, which is, I think, great, because if you look at the world of craft beer, that's a market that has slowed drastically. You see a lot of brewers, not all of them, but a lot of not all of them, but a lot have seen their growth either flatlined or turn negative, and
Mm-hmm.
and it's through no fault of their own. I think it's just the market. People are just searching out other ways to socialize. Some people are drinking more wine. Some are drinking more spirits. Some are not drinking, and the ones that are not drinking are the ones that really are looking after our products, and they're searching out great tasting non-alcoholic craft beer. So for us, that's a market that really has potential.
Excellent. Right on. Um, well, we can get wrapping up pretty soon. I was just kind of curious. So, like, you started the most popular craft beer in America, and now you're doing this in Colorado with the first THC infused beer. Do you see yourself as like a leader in the beer industry? And if so, what does that mean to you?
Well, I've read articles and stuff that say I'm an innovator, but I guess I like to stay humble.
Right. Yeah.
But yeah, it is. It's fun for me personally to I guess to be on the forefront and do things that are new, that people have never thought of before, or that are truly innovative. It's fun to, like in the early days when I started Blue Moon, I started doing all these extreme beers back when there really wasn't a name for them. It was in the 90s.
Mm-hmm.
I was brewing beers with peanut butter, huge beers, 12% alcohol beers with fruit, with, I was doing all kinds of things. I did wine beer hybrids back then with,
Wow.
I had a Chardonnay beer, I had a Cabernet Sauvignon beer.
Whoa.
So yeah, I had all these different things back then. And so I've always loved to be innovative and on the cutting edge. And for me, it's fun to do that because I've always enjoyed, I guess, delivering products to customers that really make them say, wow, because to me, that's so exciting to see them get excited about beers. Because for me, at the end of the day, it is all about beer. Otherwise, these customers will search out a way to have fun by going to wine or spirits, and I want them to stay in beer, whether it has
Right.
alcohol or cannabis or no alcohol. They stay in the world of beer, and for me, that's really important because beer has been part of our Western civilization for easily 6,000 years of recorded history, and probably longer than that. So it's just a fun beverage, and again, at the end of the day, for me, it's all about beer because that's been my life. And again, I stress that whether it has alcohol or cannabis or no alcohol, it's beer, and we should always, if you're a brewer out there, a craft brewer, or even a big brewer, you should always try to present something to your customer that just makes them say, "Wow."
Right. That's fantastic. Um, well, Keith, thank you for taking the time to talk to
A
me.
huge
Really
thank you to
appreciate
Dr. Villa for taking his time to talk to me. You can find his book, Brewing with Cannabis, on Amazon, at Barnes & Noble, as well as a number of other platforms. Links to it will be in the description below. It's a really cool book that, beyond providing readers with home brewing skills, also delves into the history of cannabis in the United States and the plant's proper growing conditions, while also breaking down the biology of the plant and the many similarities found between cannabis and hops. It's a truly all-encompassing guidebook for anyone looking to get started on their own cannabis-infused beer, and I highly recommend giving it a read. As always, thank you for listening.